Is podcast for old people?
Yeah.
I didn't see. That's an example that I didn't know that. Does that make me old that I didn't know that podcasting is for old people?
One of the best ways to support Melissa and the Mighty MERP Podcast is to go to our YouTube page, find the subscribe button, and once you've hit subscribe, open the menu and click the bell icon so you actually get alerts when we post new episodes or shorts.
This podcast is not a source of legal advice. No two legal cases are the same. Contact an attorney if you require legal assistance.
We have a fun Mighty MERP podcast today. I have an amazing yet very reluctant guest. I want to welcome Allie Rosenblum to the Mighty MERP podcast.
Hi, Melissa.
Welcome, Allie. So I said she was reluctant, and it's probably because I know everything there is to know.
Also,
and I'm
not a lawyer.
But before we you are not a lawyer. Let me start by saying, before we actually start on our conversation, I just want to share a few things about Allie. So if you haven't figured it out, Allie is my younger sister. I am number 3 of the family. Allie is number 4. We have an older brother and an older sister. Most importantly, Allie is the baby of the family. Allie's 5 years younger than me, 7 years younger than my brother, 9 years younger than my sister. I think we can all agree she is still the baby, no matter how old we get. The joke in our family and the folklore in our family is that Allie and I are twins that were separated by 5 years. And the reason for that is, maybe shocking to hear, but I did not talk till I was about 5 years old. And the joke is that I needed the other half of my brain to be born. So thank you, Allie, for being born. And then the last thing I'm going to add before we're going to jump into our conversation is Allie and I and our siblings, we have lots of kids between the 4 of us. And there are 12 cousins altogether. I have 4 kids. Allie has 2. Our older sister has 4, and our brother has 2.
No, they're right there.
Oh, they are. They're right above you, but they were babies. That's when they were sweet babies, remember? So we have 12 kids between all of us, and the cousins are pretty close. They're very close in age as well. We did a nice staircase. I could be a little off on the ages, but I think it's 27, 25, 24, 3 next month, and then 22, 22, 20.
There's 3 that are 22.
20.
Yeah.
Well, Bailey's turning 23 in like a few weeks. So then there's 22, 22, 21, 20, 18, 18,
16,
17, or 18, 18, 16. Yeah. So they're all really close in age. And I think that all the cousins, all of them, except maybe Allie's 2 children, would say that Aunt Allie knows everything. And if they have a question, to go to Aunt Allie. Other than her 2 kids. Her kids might say she knows everything as well. Yeah. No. Okay. So those are the important things to know about Allie. Why am I talking to Allie today? I know Allie's like, I'm not a lawyer, but we talk about a lot of things on the Mighty MERP podcast. And we talk a lot about mental health. We talk sometimes about caregiving. We always talk about my kids here and there. So we're going to have a conversation, just a light, nice and easy conversation about a little bit about our parents. Our mom passed away about a year ago this week from dementia. Our dad passed away 6 years ago from Parkinson's. We're going to talk a little bit about our parents, the way we were raised, caregiving, and raising college kids, or what I like to call adultish kids now. So I know all fun conversations, right, Allie? Okay, so I'm gonna set up the scene. I'm gonna ask you what you thought about this. We were all together, all of our siblings and all the kids, in February to celebrate our oldest niece's wedding. She's the first of all the kids to get married. She's 27. It was an amazing wedding. It was beautiful. It was so nice having all the kids together. But there was this realization that we were all of a sudden the Aldecockers. So, and if you don't know Yiddish,
we are the old people.
So
we are older than our parents were when they already were grandparents. Except for me. All of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I am older than my mom was when she became a grandmother by a few years. Yeah. And we are all older than she was at my wedding. I think that was a really shocking realization that, I thought my mom was old at my wedding and she was only 46. So, yeah. So all of a sudden we became old.
I know.
How did that happen?
I think the reality soon after Uncle Maury died, I remember thinking, it's IJ. IJ has to do all the motsies. Like, he's the oldest man.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem very old.
Yeah. I think that what was interesting about the wedding, and we should say, like, our father's an only child, and our mom had one sibling. And so we lost our dad in 2018. Again, it was after a long struggle with Parkinson's.
It's 3 years.
We lost our uncle. Three years, 2022. 2021. This is going to be, we're coming up on 4. Very unexpectedly. And then our mom passed away a year ago. I think what my brain keeps going around is that I don't feel old.
I think they felt old. I think that was a concern that mommy had when we were getting married and thinking about starting our family. She always said that she didn't want to be an old grandma.
Well, she did get what she...
I know, but
she was a very young grandma.
She thought she could have been a grandma earlier.
Well, that's unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
She was a young grandma. She played with all the kids. She, taught them games. She got on the floor with them. She did whatever they liked to do. She was not she wasn't, She was like a fun young grandma. She took them to the park.
Yeah, it's funny.
Went on the swings with them.
She was.
Yeah.
I know. And I don't think they remember any of that. I think they only remember her in her last few years. Yeah,
my kids don't have a lot of memories of daddy being well, but they remember grandma in the cul-de-sac. They remember mom. Yeah, riding bikes and jump rope and playing hopscotch.
We did jump roping.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, so, the last few years, we both were taking care, we were all taking care of mom. But I feel like you are like a natural caregiver and I am not, at least on the medical side of it. And so you came up with this really good description of our generation. And everyone talks about the sandwich generation. We were the sandwich generation because we still had kids that were young enough that needed to be parented and we're still taking care of our parents. But Allie,
I feel like we're the panini generation. We were being squeezed between 2 hot plates. It wasn't a nice sandwich. It was a lot of pressure on both ends. We were either letting our kids down or letting our parents down.
Yeah. Were you prepared for that? Because Is there any way to be prepared for that?
I don't know. Maybe I think you had a harder time with daddy because he had physical needs, but they felt like they came slowly and progressively. So it felt like the help he needed increased sort of little by little. So that didn't really feel hard for me. I think families maybe who deal with maybe like a more major medical event, like a stroke, where like a parent or family member is fully able one day and then needs a lot of care the next, could be more shocking and disruptive. I feel like because daddy's needs like slowly elevated over time.
Yeah, and also mom was able to help care for him, and he was able to stay in their house also, which was very different than mom 5 years, several years later. So, yeah, I feel like the whole taking care of your parents and also taking care of these young adults I feel like I wasn't prepared mentally for either of those. Like I wanted to do right by mom, but I don't know if I was like really mentally prepared to take care of my mom. I jokingly would say that there were times that I felt like I was a teenager when she first moved in, and I reacted to her like a teenager. And it wasn't until she was at the house for, a little bit of time that I realized that, some of the things she said she's not realizing what she's saying, and I had to realize that it was the dementia and not mom. While at the same time, I thought the kids would be easier once they hit 18. And I think kids at 19 and 20 and 21 are really hard. I think we're like teaching them how to adult in a way that I wasn't expecting. I thought that when they were all little, like the picture behind you, was going to be hard.
It was hard. It was hard at the time. Yeah.
It was more fun than hard.
Yeah. I like my kids' age right now.
I like my kids' age too. I just also find it very stressful. Like when just all the figuring out. I'll give an example. One of my kids said he was applying for jobs in Wisconsin and they're graduating. And there is a part of me that's like, good for you. I'm so proud of you. You're looking for a full-time job and you're looking for jobs that you want. And if you're going to move to Wisconsin, that's great. And there's a part of me that move to Wisconsin.
I like that. I have a little bit of time, at least a year, before I have to think about that. I like that they can ask questions and see the world and ask questions about our family and family dynamics. I wish they would listen a little bit more. No.
They don't listen?
Yeah.
My kids listen all the time.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I know they'll figure it out. Right.
But every so often, one of my kids will say, you were right about blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
I know. And then I try to say, I'm right about a lot of things.
I know, but I don't think that part's the helpful part. That's the inside thought, So best advice your mom ever gave you?
So I would know this anyway, but I have like a Yortzeit tradition where I read all the eulogies and stuff. So apparently it was on my mind because I wrote it in mommy's eulogy. But the best advice she ever gave me was when Benjamin was born. And I would not necessarily have described mom as a super warm or warm and cuddly or sentimental person.
I think sentimental is probably the better word.
She wasn't cool. But she did say when Benjamin was a baby, sometimes babies just cry. Sometimes they cry. You can change them and bathe them and feed them and make sure all their needs are met, and they will still cry. And sometimes you just have to put them down, and you put them in the middle of the crib, and you lift the gate, and you go outside for 10 minutes. And she did not, but she said you just leave the room so till you can't hear them anymore and calm down. And when you come back,
that is good advice.
You will be better and you will be able to calm them. But that she just said, like, they're safe in their crib. So if you're getting anxious, just put them there. Mm-hmm.
That is good advice. So, so as I said, Mom's anniversary of her passing was last week.
Mm-hmm.
So you read her eulogy. So, best advice Dad ever gave you?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I can think of lots of things that he said that were like, useful or sweet, or, I remember like in sports, I remember Daddy saying, like, there will always be people who are faster than you and more natural athletes and better, but you can be the smartest person on the field. Like you can.
I do remember that. That was like really important for him, for us when we were playing.
Right. You can see the field. You can lead in a way that isn't about being the fastest or the strongest. And there's probably some life lessons in there too.
Yeah. When I went off to college, Dad said there's going to be classes that you work really hard on and work really hard at, and you will get a C or a B, and you will be happy with that because you worked really hard to do that. And there'll be classes that you don't do any work and you'll get an A and it won't mean anything. Life is just about, and he said that about partying at college too. He's like, I don't expect you to be in the library 24/7. I don't expect you to be partying 24/7. College life is about balance and finding that balance. So
I do remember Daddy saying like a weird thing about religion to me, because I wouldn't describe Mommy or Daddy as being religious, but I remember, Liz, my wife, was raised Catholic, and I remember him saying, whatever you choose, do it. Like, yeah, if you're going to have a Jewish household, have a Jewish household. And if you're not, like, like, go all in, be observant. Yeah.
That's funny. Because I remember a Christmas tree one year.
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing.
I don't know if that was like their way of saying, like, it was okay that she wasn't Jewish.
But that's funny because you weren't the first one in the family to marry someone who wasn't Jewish. Yeah. So we talked about our parents, talked about caregiving. You have 2 kids. One's a freshman in college and one's a junior in college. I can say anything I want about my kids because I've been podcasting for a number of years and they have never listened to a Mighty MERP podcast. So like, it's all good. I know whatever I say.
I don't
they
think
will not
that
hear. But
medium of technology that my kids utilize. I don't know.
Why?
Maybe.
Is podcast for old people?
Yeah.
I didn't see. That's an example that I didn't know that. Does that make me old that I didn't know that podcasting is for old people?
One of my kids, my younger one, will listen if it's someone that she's very interested in a very specific interview, but then doesn't continue to follow that podcast.
Isn't Call Me Daddy?
So I do think like she may have heard bits and pieces of that, but that's not something where I have one podcast that I listen to every day. And then on every day of the week, I have a different podcast that drops. I can tell you my Monday podcast, my Tuesday podcast, for each day of the week. They don't have that. They don't do that.
Okay. Well, they just might not have as much
car time.
I don't want to say type A. No, I think there's something that's like a little, what's that word I'm looking for?
CD.
I don't want to say type A. I don't want to say OCD or a little like, of like, I have something on Monday and something on Tuesday and
4 o'clock.
Wapner's on at
6:30.
What time is dinner?
I like structure.
6:30. So there's nothing wrong with structure. Nothing wrong with structure.
I always like to tell the story about mommy. That our parents were born in the 60s, or were born in the 40s, but they came of age in the 60s, and they sort of were hippies, or maybe they wanted to be hippies, but they were already having babies, and they were sort of free spirits.
Yes,
and I always say, like, we listened to a lot of Free to Be You and Me and musicals and stuff like that. They were really, really liberal. Like when I was little, like we didn't read fairy tales. We didn't read anything that depicted men better than women. We didn't have coloring books. They didn't want to like keep us in the lines. And now I like to write on graph paper because one set of lines is not enough. I need...
See, I think our parents, the way they raised us, there was a paradox, because I think everything that you're saying is true, and yet I think that they also felt a lot of pressure for us to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, or the Cohens, however you want to say it in our town. So I think that there was definitely a paradox of that. But I also, like, sometimes you say things and I'm like,
I did.
You got the lead.
The tired parents.
Your parents are so different than my parents. And and I think I got a little bit more laid back than Sarah and IJ. But I feel like when you describe our parents, they're definitely different. They're definitely definitely listen to Free to Be You and Me, but I don't remember coloring outside the lines. I don't remember that being a direction for me. Maybe because they thought I was special, that, they needed to be able to.
Could be. Yeah. But I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I don't even know where I was going. Oh, I was talking about our college kids. So you said you have a lot of good advice. You have a lot of good information. Like, they don't always listen. They don't listen. And I do know my kids do the same thing. And sometimes I want them, like when you're at the house, I want them to talk to you or to our cousin Hope or someone, because I know they're going to give similar advice, but it can't come from me, because I don't want to hear it.
Just think about, I don't want to say things that we had to learn the hard way, but just things that we had to learn that we're like happy to pass on to them. I think about using resources and opportunities of people we know and having conversations and things like that and asking questions. I wish they were more open to that.
Right. I think that they do have greater resources than we do. I know, on their dad's side of the family, they have a cousin that I have said to my kids, you should reach out to her. I think she'll be able to help you in, what to do after college and how to get connected based on the industry that she's in and the success that she's had. And when they don't take the steps, I'm always like, you have like these doors that can be open to you potentially. But I do think they have to learn things the hard way, so to speak. You know, I mean, we're so much more gentle. We grew up, you know, I think about things that, you know, our parents said to us, you know, some of the best quotes, you know, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. You know, or, you know, if we were crying or upset about something, our parents would say, we'll give you some, do you want me to give you something to cry about? I think that we parented in such a more gentle way. And yet the question is now, how do they decide what they're going to do with the future? Because they're not leaving the house at 21 or 22. We lost Allie. Where did you get cut off?
I think you were quoting Daddy when you said, "Don't let the door hit you in the ass."
I was saying that our parents, we didn't have gentle parents. I think we
No.
all know that we were loved,
Mm-hmm.
or most of us believed that we were loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
I should add that both Allie and I are now, as we're having this conversation, eating our emotional support gummy bears or gummy worms.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Haribo. I just want it to be clear that they are actual gummy candy.
Me too.
Very nice. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to tell you this story, and Tom is going to have to figure out how to edit this.
MERP and Allie hereby invoke code section 5, subsection Nunya, as in Nunya Business, clause 404, info not found. Content has been redacted pursuant to good taste, mild embarrassment, and the right to remain mysterious. No actionable statements were made, no laws were broken, and no secrets were legally binding. This edit does not constitute legal advice, emotional support, or a valid excuse to pause the episode. Side effects may include curiosity, laughter, and mild confusion. Listener discretion is optional.
Speak for yourself. Why are you not cool, Allie?
Yeah. My kids would say I was a fun sponge.
Well, my kids say that too. Did they get that from each other?
Oh, maybe.
Max used to say that, my youngest, you're a fun sponge. You suck the fun out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So mean. So I was saying how we were gentle parents compared to our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So things that I remember, I'm going to give you a few of my favorite quotes, mostly from Dad. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about, which is weird because I was already.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
This coffee is terrible.
Okay. So that's mom. Mom never, the first cup of coffee you gave her was never a good cup of coffee.
Never.
Yeah. So, but I think like I look at the four of us and I think we have all lived successful adult lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, however that's defined, but I will say we all have had jobs, we all have raised kids, we have all, you know, I would say have been good people in our communities. And part of me laughs because I don't think our parents had a game plan, right?
No, I feel like I was a free range kiddo before that was a thing. I don't think mom and dad were like intentionally being like free range parents. I think they were just busy and tired.
Well, you were the baby, and they already raised a lot of other kids.
They did. And so I would say on the plus side, they probably were calmer and wiser and did really have a sense of not sweating the small stuff. That would be the most gracious way I could describe it. And then also I would just say they were tired.
They quit. They were like, I'm tapping out right now.
Well, yeah, I think I had a lot of other people. I think we were raised in a pretty traditional household.
I would agree with that.
And, you know, I think we have raised our kids and all of us in pretty traditional households. I think we
but I would
like family first and
I agree with you on that. But we also, I think we all launched pretty early in the sense of, I don't think, for the most part, by the time we were in our 20s, we were living on our own.
Mm-hmm.
You never you never lived in the house after college.
No.
No, I never lived in the house either, but I also, got married when
You were a child bride.
I was a child bride. No, I was really almost 22, but the fact that I have to say I was almost 22 kind of indicates how young I was.
Yeah.
I was so young, you couldn't sign my ketubah, which is the wedding contract.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
So, but I think we went into parenting with this like idea that there is potentially a right way to do it.
You think?
A better way to do it?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we were young. We were young parents by today's standards.
No, you were a young parent. I wasn't a young parent.
Yeah, I was a young parent. Yeah, I mean, I think by the time we had kids, we were able to see mommy and daddy for like the people they were and be able to like see their mistakes and know what we wanted to do differently.
Yes, but now this is the thing. I guess
We
I learned
have like soft kiddos.
saying soft kiddos, I'll say sensitive kiddos.
Yeah.
I think we allowed our kids to be kids longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reality is then they're going to launch later. They're going to, because we're not saying don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Right. I'm saying come home, save money. Yeah.
Right.
I was in a really big hurry to be a grown up.
Yeah, I have one that was in a really big hurry to be a grown up at 6 and 10 and 16. At 24,
Not so much.
not so much. And as said, I'm never moving out.
Yeah.
So,
I think the willingness to like be able to have hindsight and know. I remember after college, there were a couple people I know who did move back in with their parents and maybe only stayed a year or two at home, but were able to save a ton of money and pay off loans and put big down payments on first homes and things like that. And I don't think I would have listened to anybody, but to be able to have that hindsight, to be able to share that with my kids now, to say, this is an option. This is a way to do it, and to be able to say, this might give you these steps ahead.
Do you want me to tell your kids that? I think it's funny. I think that your kids would listen to me more, and my kids would listen to you or IJ or Sarah more than me, I definitely feel sometimes I become the Snoopy Charlie Brown teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, mom and dad never said we couldn't come home.
No, I think we could. I think we were. As much as dad said, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, or don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. He actually was a big teddy bear.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had like an internal sense of being a grown up.
Well, you were in some ways a grown up. You dealt with grown up things as a teenager. Your parents were definitely done parenting.
Yeah. So I didn't consider it an option, but it wasn't because they didn't allow it. And I think I think I saw other people who did take advantage of that opportunity, and I've tried to say to my kids, like, as explicitly as I can, like, you can always be here.
Right. Right. But I bet you at the time you were like thinking, why are they back at their parents' house?
Right. I do. But it was only, at the same time that I was, trying to buy a house and trying to do those things. And
Right.
it was harder.
So I keep going back to the fact that we're like the old people in our family now. We have one aunt or our kids have a great aunt. My kids don't have any grandparents left.
And mine have one.
We were at our niece's wedding, and we were definitely the older people there. So I have mentioned our parents. Dad had Parkinson's, mom had dementia. I know IJ had gotten tested for, I'm going to say it medically wrong. Is it a gene?
Mm-hmm.
Is it for Parkinson's?
He did the gene mapping. I don't
know. I don't think I'm pretty sure
I didn't do it. No, I didn't.
Do you have concerns about Parkinson's, dementia, any other?
I don't have Parkinson's concerns. I don't know why. I just don't. But, every time I forget why I walk into a room, I'm sure I'm losing my mind. But so sometimes I think if I do when I do something, I can, feel myself saying that I'm becoming mommy or daddy. But I think I worry about that one more. It feels scarier, that one. It feels like more of a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Feels sadder. But there's a lot of research about healthy sleep habits being really important to help prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. And I really am an expert sleeper.
You are an expert sleeper.
Yeah.
Naps are good too.
It's a really big priority for me. So, yeah, I feel good about that one.
I feel good. I listen and read a lot about dementia. I don't know if I'm not worried about Parkinson's. To me, it's like both that are mixed into each other. Also, because mom was at our house and my kids saw how hard it was taking care of mom. It like I know none of them want to do it. I know, my kids love me. I have no doubt about it, but they have made it clear. They're like, you have dementia, nursing home, nice facility, whatever it is. But they have made it clear. But yeah, so I not only have read about the sleep, which again, you're killing it. Allie's in bed at 8:00. Do not disturb 8:00. I'm a little later. I'm like 8:30, but
I know. And on the days that I don't work, I take a nap from 1 to 3, like a toddler.
Yeah. And exercise. So you're doing that as well. You take hikes, you walk a lot.
Yeah.
So I agree. I try. And it's funny because this really does connect with the mental health as well. Sleeping, the exercising. And then exercising is important because it's like a little cardio, a little weight. It's not just one. It's a little bit of everything, it seems like, which I think I do well. And the drinking of water as well. And there's a few other things that you're supposed to I did learn you're supposed to brush your teeth with the opposite hand, Well,
you're supposed to teach your brain new things.
Which is teaching my brain new things. And
so, like they say, they used to think doing crossword puzzles was like a way to challenge your brain. But actually doing crossword puzzles is just a recall of information that's already in your brain. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn like a completely new thing. You have to keep challenging your brain to learn something new. Yeah.
That does make sense. Yeah. But I do have those fears. I have those fears of like a lot of different conditions that they have, and also how my kids are going to handle it because, and I know they're young. So when they say things like, nope, not taking care of you, they're saying it as I call them the 22-year-old's a 2-year-old adult. I call them, it's coming from a 2-year-old adult and not a real adult or a 4-year-old adult.
Yeah. I always talk about like things I learned from daddy. I think that like obligation. So like daddy did a lot of community work, but also like he always went to Shiva minions. Like that was like he would say, like that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say like I make a concerted effort to do that. I help take care of my community. And I have never thought of obligation with a negative connotation, like the obligation to take care of mommy and daddy, the obligation to take care of community. I've always thought about it with a mindfulness of honor.
Oh, that's nice.
And the only time so someone close to my youngest spouse passed away this year, and she was at college, and she said, I have to come home because that's what you do.
Right. No.
And so on one hand, I felt sort of proud of her. And then on the other hand, I was worried if I was passing like the negative sense of obligation.
No, I think that when you say it in the honoring, it's not negative. And it's sort of, it's such a strange, I don't want to use the word paradox again, but it's like what you're saying about sitting Shiva and about taking care of your community. I agree with all. And yet I feel like taking care of mom was an obligation or a duty. And maybe because I didn't think I was good at it, or I felt like, probably because I felt like I was the default, like maybe not really where she wanted to be, but where she needed to be. But no, I think my kids have that too. And I think that when your youngest came home, I don't think it was a negative. I think she needed it for her as well as doing it out of obligation.
There was something, sort of just plain and simple when she said, that's what you do.
Right. Well, that goes to like your kids do, like it doesn't always matter if they listen when you say the words, because I think that they're more likely to follow the action than the words.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's probably better that they're seeing it, So it's funny that you said that about dad, who's not religious at all, and yet would always ensure he went to Shiva.
Yeah.
To make sure there was a minion. So.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people think about obligation in a negative way. And I think a lot of the obligations that I hold, I learned from daddy, but I've never thought about them negatively.
Yeah, I guess. I think that I'll say it as simple as like when I say like you worry about dementia and putting that burden on my children, because I think that they would see it as an obligation, but not in a positive way, not in a positive way. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that, and taking care of someone with dementia is, I've done some really hard things in my life, and it is in the top 3.
It was terrible, but then I think, then maybe we have like a greater responsibility to do like whatever preparation. Like mom and dad didn't do a lot of preparation for like.
They did not. Their plan was that we would take care of that. That was their plan. But we have a plan.
Yes, we do have a plan.
We have a plan, and we have told our children this plan. They do not think it's a good plan.
Right. Yes, but all of the siblings and or spouses are invited to all live in one house where we would have one caregiver, and, we can each bring to the table what we can still do.
Correct. And the only rule is like we get our own rooms. There needs to be a nice porch and we need to be near water. And then all the alpacockers will be living in our own house together.
Mm-hmm.
So they can come visit us in one place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is brilliant. I'm going to cook.
I'm going to do the laundry.
Yeah. So is Liz gardening? What's Liz doing?
Yeah, she could be gardening. She will, she'll be taking care of animals.
Are they going to be in the house, all those animals?
I know. We're going to have a separate little.
Yeah. It's not that I don't love animals, because I don't want anyone to think I don't love animals, but I am highly allergic to all animals.
Yeah.
And then in our house, in our planned house, we will have bags and bags and baskets of gummy bears.
Yeah.
So, all right. So before we finish up for the day, we've had some great conversations about our parents, about so many fun conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to share about mom, dad, parenting, finishing raising adultish kids?
Yeah, I mean, my kids were really lucky to have like great grandmas that they remember.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had great grandmas until they were like, they had great grandmas at their B'nai Mitzvah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I feel a little bit sad that our parents were actually young enough that they could have seen their grandchildren have.
They were young enough.
Yeah.
They both died so young.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel sad for that. Yeah. But I feel like happy about what they were able to see, are like what milestones are they were able to see.
Yeah. Yeah. They loved all of it. They loved everything about being a grandparent.
Yeah.
I would say more than they necessarily loved being a parent.
Yes. Yes. I have like this image of mom like bending down to like Max and Becca and like talking to them as they were like toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like when she would play with them in the cul-de-sac. I was thinking, oh, you did not do.
No. But it's funny that you have those memories, because I do. I have her like face to face with the kids sitting in the sandbox. But I will say that her and Ellie always seemed to be like poking at each other, like they were the same age.
Well, that's because Ellie was born a grown-up.
I know. And I remember when Ellie was like 3 or 4, Mom saying, she's so mean sometimes. And I was like, Mom, one of you is a grown-up and one of you is a child, and you need to act accordingly. And I'm going to leave it at this, that when Mom moved in and Ellie was frustrated and said, she's not being nice, Mom. I said, one of you is an adult. And one of you is a child, and you need to act accordingly. And she understood what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's been a tough year.
I know. When are we going to stop saying that?
I think when people stop, I'm not going to say it out loud.
I know.
It's hard. It's the stupid panini generation.
Yeah.
All right. I love you.
I love you.
Visit me soon. And, don't forget to bring more gummies. Emergency gummies.
Got them. Talk to you soon.
Love you.
For any questions or interest in podcasting, go to legalpodcasting.com. One of the best ways to support Melissa and the Mighty MERP Podcast is to go to our YouTube page, find the subscribe button, and once you've hit subscribe, open the menu and click the bell icon so you actually get alerts when we post new episodes or shorts.